Hello everyone! Happy to see you all at Vuejs Amsterdam conference. And when technically I cannot see you all right now, I'm literally in Amsterdam and I really miss your eyes in the audience. But such a COVID time, so let's have this talk as a remote one. And today we will speak again about the composition API, maybe slightly from a different angle. And the structure of this talk will look like this. We will have really fast walkthrough slides just to remind you all what composition API is. And after this, we will have a live coding session when I will be coding a reusable composable as it was promised in the title. So let's start. Recently, when looking at Twitter threads, I noticed that there are lots of misunderstanding across composition API. People assume that this is some new kid that they will need to learn, and it will replace an options API. And at the same time, these people do not want to start learning it because they are quite sufficient with options API. And technically, this is correct. You might be not needing composition API in your applications because it's designed to handle some complex cases when you need to reuse the logic. And maybe you don't have these pieces of logic to reuse. So the idea behind this talk was to show a piece of logic that we will abstract and reuse in our application, and where composition API, as I think, really shines. Let me introduce myself. My name is Natalia, and I'm Vue.js core team member. I care about our documentation, and I was authoring a huge chunk of composition API documentation as well. I work as a Staff Frontend Engineer at GitLab, and GitLab is using Vue.js on our frontend. And trust me, such a big application always has these complex cases where you want to jump on a new version to use all these new methods. Also, I'm a Google developer expert in web technologies. So, a quick rewind about composition API. So if you completely missed what this API is, it's a new thing we introduced in Vue 3, and it's a way to create a standalone reactive state of properties. So currently, all the reactive state is handled by Vue components or Vue application instance. With composition API, you can separate the two or combine them. It's up to you. So we can use this in our Vue components inside of the setup function. As you can see here, we create two standalone properties with VueRef method that creates an object with a single value property, and this object is reactive. We expose these properties and we use them in our template. We can also abstract reactive state. This means that we can keep it separately from our component and import there. So here we have a function use form. It has completely the same properties, login and password, and a method to submit, which simply console logs our reactive properties. And we can import it in our component and use there. But this is not answering why this API is useful. It's only a different way to write what we already had in the options API. And it's debatable which way is more convenient. Composition API is required to have a flexible and universal logic composition. Let's take a look at flexible. So, for example, I want to abstract my form somehow using the options API. And of course, I can go with the mixin. The mixin will expose our data properties and a method for submit form, and I can import this mixin whenever I want and use. The problem is mixins are not flexible. Imagine if I want also to console log a form ID, and this form ID would be passed from parent component as a prop or parameter or somehow else. And I cannot do this with mixin. I would need to create a data property and rely on mixin on this data property in parent component, which is really fragile. So mixins are not flexible. We cannot customize a mixin when it's already created. I have another options, also with Options API, and even in Vue too. And this option is create a renderless component. So here you can see form wrapper. That exposes all the logic you have just seen in the mixin, and it returns as a slot prop of the scope slot. And these properties can be used in the template. But there is a problem here. Imagine that I want to access a login property somewhere outside of this component, not in its scope slot. And I cannot do this because renderless components work in a runtime. So I can access exposed properties only within the scope slot, not outside the component, not in other data properties, only there. So they're not universal. We can use them only relying on the power of scope slots. And this is how Composition API is designed. It's flexible, so I can pass whatever I want, and it's universal because I can use exposed properties anywhere, even in Options API properties, so I can combine the two. That's why I really wanted to create an example to show this reusable composable, and let's start with this one. So what we're gonna do here, we will randomly select a set of different APIs. Some of them are REST APIs, some of them are GraphQL APIs, and we will build a composable to consume them. And this composable is going to work with any single API without any changes. I already selected the first API, and this is going to be Cats API simply because I like cats and I cannot resist the possibility to share cats pictures with you. But for the rest of the APIs, we're going to spin the wheel. So the first API gonna be Dog API, which seems to be symmetrical, so we have cats and dogs. And the second one is going to be a space X1, and this one is GraphQL API. But first, let's start with our cats. And my current application is absolutely not fancy. It's simply an input field and a search button. So let's start fetching cat images from this API. Let's start with creating a few reactive properties. So first one will be query string, and its initial value is going to be an empty string. This one will serve us for search, and it's whatever user is typing in the input field. Let's return it from our setup, so it will be available in the template. And I will add a Vue model here, binding it with this query property. The second one I want to create is a result, and this is the one where we'll be saving the result of the API call. Again, this is going to be a string. And now we create a function called API. I always have problems with naming. So this one will perform an actual Axios call. So we will be doing const result rs, it's shorter. I will be using this fancy sync await, is await Axios get, and let's copy paste a string from the documentation. Okay. And instead of having breed ID, we are going to add here our query value. And value part is really important because always remember that refs under the hood are objects with value property. They are automatically unwrapped to use them in the template when you return them from setup. But when you use them inside the setup, value is still important to have. And let's console log our res. Let's go to the browser. And yeah, let's also return everything because my ESLint is going to complain. Result and call API. And let's assign our call API here to the button click. So right now I'm going to type some cat breed and click search. And I have a response that contains some data, and this is an array. And a 0 element of this array contains this link. So I want to retrieve this link now. So res data 0 URL. One more try, just to make sure that I didn't fail, and I have a link to the picture. Oh, this is gorgeous one. So right now, instead of consoling log, I want to assign this back to result. Result value is equal to res data URL, and I want to display it. I want to add an image, and this image will have a source from my result and some random image alt, which is not really useful, but it is what it is. This is random image. So you see it's displayed here again. Abyssinian cat, please. Okay, we have the first iteration of working API. Let's also add the if here. No, we don't add the if. We will add two more properties right now. So I want also to show an error if something happens when I call the API, if something wrong is happening. So const error is ref of false, because I will be showing this just conditionally. And I also want to handle loading state. So const loading is ref of false as well. And our function becomes a bit more complicated now, because when I'm calling an API, I want to set our loading value to true, our error value again to false, so it will hide the error message when we call a new API. And then I want to have a try catch hook. Not even try catch, but try catch and finally. So in try, I will be calling our API. In catch, if something is wrong, I will say that error value is true. And finally, I want to set our loading to false. Now let's also show our error and loading in the template. So, oops, something went wrong. Please try one more time. And this will be shown if we have an error. And here, just above the image, I want to show a block just for loading message. And if I don't have a loading state, but I have a result, I want to show a picture. And of course, let's not forget to return result. Oh, I already have result, sorry. Error and loading from the setup. Okay, let's try again. So I'm searching for Abyssinian cat, loading state, a picture, Siamese cat, search, a picture again, and let's change the API slightly so there will be an error. Whatever. Something went wrong. I just want to make it red, but rest is good. Awesome. So we created the logic to call an API. But as you can see, this logic looks a bit bloated. And also, we will be repeating this logic every single time we want to call an API. So it seems good to simply move this logic to the composable. So let's jump into the use API file. And let's start copy-pasting the logic from app view here. So definitely I need to copy-paste our ref. Also, I will copy-paste, well, all of this and modify it slightly. So export function use API. And here we go. But here is a hard-coded Axios call. And I don't want it to be hard-coded because maybe I will be calling getPost with Axios post call. Maybe I will be using GraphQL API. I just don't want my composable to be bound to a certain call. So instead of all this, we will be passing a function called getResults. And I will just call this function here. And this function will accept our query value as a parameter because we still want to pass our search term into this function. And we can simplify it right now because we also don't want to shape the response this way because APIs, as you can see, are very different. So right now we are ready to remove almost everything from here. And I will just get my properties from use API. So I want to import use API from my composables, use API, and I want to say that I want everything like this from use API. And now I need to pass my function. And this will be an Axios call. So I have async query passed here as a parameter. This will be query value. And I will have const res, which is awaiting Axios get my query. Value is already handled in the composable. And I want to return this one because I want to shape my data because Cats API requires me to extract data 0 URL. I can remove this one. And let's see if this works in our application. So here is search. And yes, I need to fix my API. So I want to search for my Abyssinian cat. And here we go. So currently our composable is working with Cats API. Now let's make an effort and add a second API here, which will be docs. So let's say that this is Cat API. Now let's go and search for the documentation of the dog API. And this is dog.co. And we have documentation. So where we can search for reads list. And here is a random image for the Affenspitze, whatever it is. So let's copy paste all these and try to work on it. So basically we have the same start. And I will just comment this one. So this is dog API. And here I want to pass async query again. Const res is axios get. And let's copy paste this again. It looks a bit weird, but this is due to the input field, I guess. And here I want to replace this part because this is a breed that we will be entering in the search. Good. Let's return res. This will get an error, but we need to see the shape of the response to know what we are going to return. And also, I will remove this API key because this is for cats API. So back here, I want to see Husky. And I have a response. Yes, I forgot await. Again, Husky. Now we have a response, and let's search for the image. So it will be data message. So I want to return res data message. Again, Husky. Search, and we have a picture of Husky. What about Doberman? Good. And again, if I make a mistake anywhere here, I have my error logic, and I have my loading logic exposed as well. So this composable is working for any kind of the API, but as you can see, dog and cat API were quite similar in this case. Let's take some challenge. Let's work with SpaceX API, which is definitely more complex, but we won't use Vue Apollo and all the fancy stuff. We'll be simply calling GraphQL with Axios because you can do this. So let's go and search for SpaceX API, the GraphQL, and here we go. As you can see, there is already a query. And what we want to do, we want to fetch some images, and images are only on ships entity. So let's try to fetch some ships to see how it works. And with GraphQL, you can leverage GraphQL Explorer. So we can see ID, name, image. Let's go here, and you can see that there is a list of ships with a name and images. And also, we can filter our ships. So there is find property, where we can specify the name we're searching for. So, okay, let's add find name. Let's go with some kind of quest for now. Why am I typing quest? So there are two ships like this. And let's make it with variables. So we will have query ships that accepts a name variable, which is a string. And we pass it here. And we can also add query variables here. So name is quest. So when I run this, name quest. This is the same that I would pass this variable. So I will copy paste this string and let's go build our SpaceX API one. So I will also copy paste all this part. So I started it in the wrong place. So SpaceX API will go here. So SpaceX API. And we have all this goodness from Docs API. And we just need slightly change it. Because in this case, I will be calling Axios post. And we will use this API of the GraphQL one. And also we need to pass parameters, where query would be this query string. Let's just format this a bit. So we have a query and we also need variables. And variables will be name, and here we pass our query. So here we go, and let's console log res to see if this request will be successful. So quest, search, and I have some response indeed, and it's data, then data again, data ships, 0 image. Res data ships, 0 message. Again, quest. This is such a quest to go on. Okay, this is undefined. I wonder why. If I remove one of the data, will this work? Nope. Oh, so this is not message, but image. And let's also return it from here to see if this works. Quest. And here we go. This is a picture of SpaceX Quest. And I hope this quest through the reusable composable was interesting for you. And thank you for listening.